But I'd rather sell out than have like inventory we can't sell. And then you have to be like, all right, I guess it's 50% off for the next 6 months.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and today I'm welcoming to the show not one, but two amazing founders. We've got Wes Horbatuck and we've got Greg Orfe coming to us from Driftline. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Awesome. So first things first, for those that are unfamiliar with Driftline, what are the product or products that you guys are bringing to market over there?
So we are a water sport apparel brand. Our main flagship product is we make wetsuit line board shorts, patented wetsuit line board shorts called Drifties. And then we make supplementary products like UPF sun shirts and hats and other gear for water sport athletes.
That's rad. Now, take me back in time. Where did the idea for, these products come from?
Yeah, I'll kick it off here first. So, I grew up surfing in Rhode Island and Maine, and never been a big wetsuit guy. I'm lanky, I'm tall, and the idea came from when Greg and I was when we both moved to California, Southern California. We were going for a surf, and it was that time of year where it was like too cold for board shorts, but it was like too warm for a wetsuit. It's like that in-between season, and it's actually pretty long here, both for the fall and spring here in Southern California and San Diego. So we're like, all right, there has to be a better way. And literally, like, work with some other connections that we've had, conceptually stitched a wetsuit liner into an outer shell. Like everyone knows what that 2-in-1 short looks like, but no one had done a 2-in-1 wetsuit board short. So we were like, okay, this is a really cool idea. Got some prototypes, everything made up, and tested it out. And like, whoa, this has some legs. This is like a really cool concept.
And when you say you tested it out, I'm assuming you gentlemen tested this product in your own adventures in the water. But were you also getting feedback from like other surfers outside of just your friends and family?
Yeah, I mean, like, so Greg and I still have the recording on my phone, but like the first sample we have, Greg and I jumped in like the pool that was in our apartment complex at that time, it was a colder time of year. And it was shock on our face because you couldn't feel the cold water between like your knee and your waist because of the wetsuit liner. So when we tested out, we're like, oh my gosh, this is something, but we have to get it into other people's hands. So we got into like local surfers and other friends, but Greg was also a kayak tour guide at that time. So he was able to test a lot of that product out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was out on the water pretty much daily leading kayak tours in La Jolla for, travelers and tourists. And I was rocking them daily and jumping out in the water and paddling people around and stuff. And it felt like a real life use case of not just using it for surfing, because the product was born from surfing, but it was kind of that realization of like, oh, wow, this could even just be, it's great for kayaking, just anyone who sits in water that likes to get outdoors. So I think that's kind of also was a big moment because we're like, this could go so much far beyond one simple water sport.
That's amazing. So you've tested this thing. You are starting to see the validation. What's next?
I think proof of concept for us was a big deal. So I think the next phase in the company was actually pretty funny because I've an entrepreneur by just like the way I was born. I've always loved this. And so I was always looking for something to do. And I feel like Greg and I were like ready to, it was like a jump in moment. It was actually so like very kismet because Greg was in graphic design school at the time. And like, it was me wanting to do something with my life on the side, product related, create something that's valuable, something that I actually want to do. And at the same time, Greg like needed to create a product and a company at school. So it was like, holy crap, we have this like joining a melding of minds at the moment of two things. It's like, do we actually want to just jump in and do it? And the answer was yes. And we love the product, love the concept. We're in SoCal. Like, what a better way to like embrace amazing place than create a product that is made for this place? So we jumped in and worked to get samples, worked with a local guy to find a manufacturing process, like something we were so green on and didn't know anything about, because I'm from finance and Greg is from sales world. And we just like jumped in head first to like figure this supply chain apparel world out.
How long would you say it was from when you got those first samples made after that kind of like aha moment to where you got, that final production sample and you guys are ready to start selling this?
Took some time. I think part of our origin story is that we went through like 15 to 16 different manufacturers before we could actually find someone who would work with us, because like Wes said, we were a green company. We didn't have a website yet. And people were trying to take a leap on us. But part of the difficulty was the actual construction of the product, because combining neoprene to like an outer shell, it really hadn't been done before. And it was also just at the start of the whole 2-in-1 like short concept for men in general. And so just that combination of neoprene, like people's needles weren't going through it, or manufacturing needles weren't going through the two materials. So it took us some time. And then the lead time for the product was also a few months. So we were working on it once we got that first sample for at least 5 months until we eventually launched the actual business.
Yeah. And keep in mind, like the concepts before that, like we have probably 6 different samples of prototypes before we found one that we actually liked. And we're still tweaking to this day, years later. But like, we're like, oh, we want a half stretchy waistband to kick it off. And then I dove in the water and the first thing, like my shorts came all the way down to my knees. I'm like, okay, clearly that's not a good use case for it. So like we tried to find little tweaks here and there. And the really complex thing is we're making a short that looks normal from the outside. So it doesn't look kooky. It looks like this guy's just wearing normal board shorts. But underneath it has to hug in the right areas to prevent chafing, keep you warm, not ride, but give you full freedom of movement when you're doing your water sport. So it's like the complexity of having something that is tight and taut on your body, with also having the complexity of looking natural. So there was a lot of like in and out of stuff that Greg and I not only had to learn on the fly, but then had to figure out how to tell manufacturers exactly what we were looking for.
Absolutely. Greg, you alluded to kind of launching the website and going like, can we talk about like, what was the go-to-market strategy? How'd you put this thing out there into the world?
Well, I think, to Wes's point, it was kind of symbiotic in that I needed a school project. I was going to school at San Diego City College downtown. And by the end of the semester, we had refined a logo, business cards. We had like a website wireframe mock-up and everything like that. And I think that was a big part of why we felt like we could bring this thing to life. And so from there, I was almost just copy pasting kind of what we initially had onto a Shopify store, which is totally brand new to us. But the business cards and all that stuff, I was able to just send it straight to print. And so it really was through the school project that I think we were able to kind of seamlessly go to market in that way. It was really just trying to figure out how to create an actual e-commerce store and what that all entailed, because that was not something Wes and I were familiar with, and they didn't touch on that at school. So that was probably the biggest challenge at the time.
I obviously we're going to get into all that, but I need to note, has the school called you back to speak to these students?
I wish, I think that would be a really cool full circle situation. And they do bring people back here and there. I have told my professors about it, but yeah, just waiting on the call.
Absolutely. Send them this and they'll give them a little bit of a reminder. So you guys build this Shopify store, you figure it out. That's what I think most modern entrepreneurs are doing these days, just figuring it out. What happens when you go live? That's what I want to know.
So we, one thing that I've been really good at in my career is I'm a guerrilla marketing guy. Like I've always liked the boots on the ground, getting people excited about something, and then transferring that to digital. So Greg and I, in true form, we threw a big party. We went to a brewery, threw a big party, got all friends there. People from the street were coming in and out of it. And like that day, we launched our site that morning too. So we had done like weeks of like launching Instagram, having a tailored Instagram account, everything because just kind of pushing to the site. We sold really well at the event. And from there, it was like all organic. Now at this time, this was just like a testing side phase project that Greg and I were just doing. Like, it wasn't like we're living on ramen noodles now, let's go all in on this thing. It was like, hey, this is really cool. Let's see if we can do this. And the party itself, like, we sold a lot of shorts. People off the street came in and bought shorts. Like, keep in mind, this is in the heart of SoCal. So people immediately understood the concept when they're touching it. They're like, oh my God, this has never been done before. You guys should do this. And we're like, well, we are doing this. It's live today. Like, this is the launch day. And from then we saw like pretty significant organic growth. And we were like, our product was in our apartment. We had stacks of like shelving units, and we're just trying to sell this thing organically. We're going to drop off product at people's doorsteps in our local town. We were told, like, own your backyard. So like the site went live, and organically we just started kind of cranking and moving. And we didn't put ads or anything for the first like while, because we're like, we want to make sure that this has like true organic growth through the site and optimizing our SEO and optimizing through local press before we like really test with some ad dollars.
And something that I think also worked was without really knowing SEO, it's kind of something you have to do when you're setting up your Shopify store and putting in the meta fields and stuff. And I think we just nailed that. We got lucky. And it goes back to my point about it was at the rise of the 2-in-1 short concept for men in athleisure, for Lululemon and stuff like that. And we realized so many people are looking for just lined blank, especially, in menswear. And we just kind of, I think it was just a naturally lucky situation where it was even more people looking for lined something for water sports. So we were the only product out there that had really kind of narrowed in on that. And we were just showing really high on Google, like right off the bat.
Absolutely. And as Wes kind of just said, like that, no one's done this before. Like, this is a really good idea. I know that you guys have now patented the idea. So let's take a quick segue down that line. Talk to me about that whole process. So
the minute we started like realizing this is something, I have, a pretty heavy finance background. So I know that the minute you should do is like the first thing you do, you got to go search. You got to go search. You have, are there trademark infringements? Are there anything like any other competing products out there? SWOT analysis, all that kind of fun stuff. So we did some research and we're like, holy crap, there's like nothing for a wetsuit lined board short. And Greg and I would definitely not be where we are today if it wasn't for just friends of friends. You just have to leverage that when you start a company. So one of my old roommates when I first moved to San Diego's friend was like the head of legal for like a baby company. And he's like, yeah, I'll take a look at your product and we can see if this is patentable. And that process just started right off the bat when we launched the product, because something I did research was you have to apply for your patent within a year of the ideation. And so I was like, okay, well, let's get this thing moving then. So we submitted the patent after tons of drawings, figuring out and that's the benefit of having Greg. He's a graphic designer. So like we had all these intricacies, like all the technical drawings, all this stuff just locked and loaded. We just needed someone to describe like what the patent would look like and how to apply, which is a whole massive undertaking. We had no idea. Like, you can't say Velcro in a patent. It has to be like hook and seam. So it's just a completely different language. And we luckily had a friend that was able to just like create a patent package for us and submit it. I know it sounds easy, but it was not.
Hey, Shopify store owners. Have you ever wondered if your store is leaving money on the table? Imagine increasing sales without spending more money on ads. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it's not. I'd like to introduce you to StoreTester. StoreTester is a done-for-you conversion rate optimization service for Shopify merchants. Could your store benefit from increased conversion rates, higher average order values, and improved revenue per visitor? StoreTester could be the perfect partner for you. From ideation to implementation, this full-service A/B testing service takes all of the guesswork out of improving Shopify stores. StoreTester does all the work for you while offering month-to-month transparent fixed pricing. It gets even better. They believe in their service so much, they're offering the first test for free for qualified merchants. Let me repeat. The first test is free for qualified merchants. Curious to see if you qualify for a free test? Reach out today. Visit StoreTester.com to schedule an intro call. That's www.StoreTester.com. Schedule an intro call today to see if you qualify for a free test. Hey everybody, today's podcast is brought to you by Intelligems, the ultimate profit optimization tool for Shopify merchants. I'm telling you this, obviously you know I own an agency. We use Intelligems when we're running split testing and CRO stuff for all of our clients. Are you looking to maximize your profits? Intelligems offers data-driven solutions to optimize your content, prices, discounts, and shipping rates. Join over 500 happy clients who have seen significant improvements. With Intelligems, you gain control over your e-commerce economics, boosting your profit per visitor by an astonishing 36%. But that's not all. Intelligems users report a 54.62 increase in revenue per visitor and a remarkable rise in conversion rates. How does Intelligems do it? Through a suite of tools that allows you to A/B test everything on your Shopify store, from landing pages to product prices and shipping rates. Imagine testing new layouts, offers, even a new Shopify theme with ease. We're testing a new landing page for our client on a new theme versus an old landing page on their old theme right now. Intelligems empowers you to find the perfect price point for your products and optimize your shipping strategy. But there's more. Boost your average order value with customized campaign offers and discover if your customers prefer free shipping or a lower list price. With over $100 million in incremental profit generated, they have over 1.5 billion transactions ran through their software. They have over 400 million shoppers that have gone through their test. Intelligems is not a tool, it's a game changer for your business. Are you ready to transform your Shopify store's profitability? Book a demo today at Intelligems.io. Empower your brand to reach new heights. Again, that's Intelligems, giving superpowers to your customer acquisition, retention, and overall profitability. No, absolutely. But it worked out. So you guys do have that patent now. How long did that process take from start to stop?
Yeah, a little over 4 years. And then the last year was the worst because at that, you kind of almost forget about it when you're patent pending. It's public at that point. People can search it up, but you're like first in line. And the minute that it gets given to the USPTO representative, you then have to defend your patent against that person. And the craziest part is you want to go in really broad. We are connecting a liner to an outer shell. And then her job to defend the US patent was no, there are 300 other patents that already do that. So it's okay, let's refine ours a little bit. And you go back and forth for 16 times. And it finally gets to a point where we can both agree that we're in the right position. So we finally got to a point where we are a rubber soluble material integrated with a outer shell, which is still amazingly broad for us. So it was really a good job that our patent attorney did, but you're fighting for everything and you get tooth and nail on little seams. And it's a pretty crazy process, but it makes it all the more worthwhile once you get it, because now we're pretty ironclad with this thing.
No, yeah, that's amazing. Now let's jump back to the actual kind of scaling of the business. So you guys are selling this thing organically. You're starting to see some traction, especially locally, but also through SEO. When did you start to pour a little bit more gas on the fire and start to take marketing and advertising a little bit more seriously?
I think a couple things happened. Year 2, Greg and I started to do a lot more in-person events, and we started to get a lot of people being dude, you should give this to this person, or you should go sponsor this event. And we made some huge mistakes that year, giving away a lot of free product to these big organizations that promise so much. But some good came out of it because people did get the word out there. So we started testing around ads and doing these things. And we saw that there was an ROI, but we missed the boat on leaning in full on to get a huge ROAS for ad spend. But what did happen for us is we got enough eyeballs that like Shark Tank became a huge thing that people told us to keep going for. And that was not something that we were like ready for or thought about really doing until like the 100th person was like, dude, go on Shark Tank. This is a crazy idea. And so, the ad dollars, I think in year 2 or 3, we spent like $10,000 in ads, like minimal stuff for an e-commerce site that's doing pretty well and selling out of most of our product. But what did happen is then all of a sudden the Shark Tank 8-month process of us trying to apply really took up a lot of our time. So we focused all organically selling out product and then like trying to get onto that show.
Spoiler alert, you did.
Spoiler alert, we did. Yeah.
You want to talk to us about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first and I'll pass it to Greg. But it was we went in with the intention of like, Greg and I self-funded this project. We didn't need the money to scale. And we were very nimble from the beginning to the point where like we were breaking even by like year 2.5 because we were doing small batch, trying to sell out very conservative colors. And like we knew our demographics. So we were just hitting that with like this organic local like sale. And that process just started where we applied for Shark Tank with that same mindset. We don't really need the money. We just want to get onto the show for like to actually connect with someone who can like enhance our supply chain. Because that was always our biggest thing and still to this day is like apparel supply chain with lead times like sucks. It's brutal. And so we're like, we want to work with a shark who has connections to like better manufacturing, better supply chain, better access to like inventory management. And so we just kept going down that path. And like after 8 months of interviews, we finally got to the position where this is like, yeah, like you guys are going to be on the show. And we recorded and it went really well to the point where they're like, we can't guarantee that you're going to be like airing, but it was a 2-hour recording for like 8 minutes of airtime. And finally, after like months, they like 2 weeks before May in like, they were like, hey, by the way, you're going to be airing. And we had no inventory. We like had to pause all inventory on our sites. It was like a whole mess. And we aired on Shark Tank. And within like 24 hours had sold like 90% of our product that we had remaining for the remaining part of the year. So like year 3 was a crazy situation for us.
Yeah. And in terms of the experience itself, I think we went through that 8-month process so much longer than we expected. And then we were just sitting and waiting for like 6 months or however long it was. So it had been a whole year and we were just like, what the heck? But when we filmed, I think, we can only share so much, but, there was just a lot of bright lights. You're in a dark room and you're assigned like a production manager essentially. And they're working directly with each business that's there. There were probably like 5 or 6 businesses at the date that we aired. And you go up, you do the pitch, there's the countdown, your heart is absolutely pounding out of your chest. And you actually do walk through those double doors and, you come and you're staring at the sharks. There's like a 60-second standoff with them where they're just kind of taking photography. And the funny thing is we finished our pitch. We talked to them for like 45 minutes and our segment was about 8 minutes. So they really slimmed it down. And after we were done, they put all of our assets like outside, the garage or whatever. Like, okay, you guys, please exit the studio. And so we just like left right after it was done. We were driving down the 5 back to San Diego, just silent because there's so much buildup, a whole 8 months of that. You film for an hour and then they kind of kick you out and you're just driving home. And you're just like, oh my God, what was that? So it was really wild, to have all that work and it just kind of is over in a flash.
And a funny side note, it was actually the same weekend as my bachelor party was planned. And we had to cancel my bachelor party. Like last minute, I had to call, like Greg was my best man. And we like had to call up their whole crew and be like, so I can't tell you really why we're canceling this bachelor party, but it's going to be potentially for a good reason in like 6 months from now. It all worked out then.
Absolutely. And the episodes aired already?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. About 1.5 years ago.
Gotcha. Now, are you allowed to tell people whether or not you made a deal?
Yeah. So we actually ended up turning down 2 deals. They wanted like 30% of the company, and we were still pretty young at that point. Knowing that by turning it down, we might not air. But we weren't going to give away a third of our company just to have someone potentially come in and honestly do not a lot. So the investment option just kind of disappeared when we left. But once we got the call, the exposure aspect was way bigger than Greg and I even expected. And we just made sure we had tracking capabilities, email signups, like retargeting ads, like all that stuff was like locked and loaded. That was the 2 weeks going up to the airing, is like, how can we make sure we optimize our site? And then like our email like list grew by like 10x. It was a crazy moment for us, an inflection point for the company.
Absolutely. And, I've had multiple Shark Tank guests on the show. And that the Shark Tank bump is real. Now, you still see stuff with reruns?
Yeah. Like Greg and I will like, I don't know, be having a beer, or like I'll have like dinner with my wife, and all of a sudden my phone will just go like, and just like orders will just pump through. So we definitely see those little bumps here and there. But I think the Shark Tank effect that not a lot of people talk about, especially in apparel, is like it messes up your supply chain for like a good 8 months, because we like actually sold out of all of our product. We had no product for the holidays. So like, we're like, oh my God, like what a disaster. People get so mad at you when you're sold out for a long period of time. So we had to like expedite ship to get product. And like that eats into your margin because we're flying product across the world. And it's just like all of a sudden you can't recuperate, and you're trying to figure out how to spend dollars that you like all of a sudden got really quickly. You have so much cash on hand. So you have to actually spend that correctly. So it really messes you up for about 8 months. And finally, we're back on like a recorrection standpoint where we're back on like a true agenda.
Yeah, it was like a great problem to have, but it was a problem at the same time.
Absolutely. So post Shark Tank, what's going on these days? How are you driving people to your website in 2024? That's different from kind of that organic growth that you were doing historically.
Yeah. I mean, once we got our supply chain recorrected, we did all the right things to scale the company, in my opinion. We're still trying to figure things out, but we have a social media like ad team. We have an organic team. And then Greg and I mainly handle just like marketing, and Greg is like handling all ops. So I'll speak specifically from the marketing side because that's what I own in the brand. And then I'll let Greg talk about operations and margin. But our website, we are working on optimizing for next year. But right now, the goal was like capitalize on all of our current emails, make sure that we're on all social media platforms, test out like organic with athletes. So that was the big thing for us. We started finding influencer athletes that have their own sales channels. And we would utilize them, and still are to this day, as our salesmen. And what they do is they generate content for us. We give them links and stuff for our website. So they generate content for us. We put that content to a folder. Our organic team takes that content, repurposes it for social media all across all channels. Then our ads team sees what's successful from that content that is posted across all the channels, and they put money behind it, and then so on and so forth. And then that just repeats and repeats. And it's worked out really well for us. We have multiple tiers of athletes that produce content, pay some of them more than others. So we've just created this machine that kind of focuses on sales. And then Greg is focused on inventory management to make sure that we have enough product to keep up with the machine, which has been our biggest issue.
Yeah, I think, we just kind of hit a point where we knew we needed to level up, because Wes and I mean, we still really are the two that are handling everything with the business. But when we hit the point where we were like drowning in it all, I think once we built like kind of a small team to delineate, roles, that's when we really started thriving, because again, Wes would handle all the marketing, and me, for example, to his point in terms of operations and inventory, I just completely started making sure that we were ramping up the quantity of our purchase orders, the styles available, and then finding the best manufacturers that got us the best margin. So, for example, we've recently switched to a new manufacturer that not only is more flexible in terms of their minimum order quantities, but they're also sourcing like the best materials in the world. So we now have Yamamoto neoprene, which is some of the best neoprene in the world from Japan. And that is the new liner for our trunks. So it's like just trying to make sure that we're finding the best partners to work with globally. And I think this delineation of roles has allowed that.
To add on to one thing that Greg mentioned is like the margin aspect of the new manufacturer is Greg actually negotiated new pricing terms. And like for a apparel manufacturer specifically, an apparel business, being able to utilize like cash is king, right? So being able to utilize cash on hand for ads to make sales and then be able to get those sales to repay off your merchandise versus having to pay when the product hasn't even like left the manufacturer, like that has completely freed up cash flow for us. So now our cash flow is dialed to the point where we are paying things at 30 to 60 day increments after we receive them and allowing us to repay that money back and then pay for future orders. So now we'll have like a true calendar that we stick with throughout the year, allowing us to do a lot more with our money.
Absolutely. Two things there I want to kind of highlight is first, is without like saying it, something that really stood out to me is you guys have delegated and delineated like lines in the sand as to what each partner is responsible for. And looking back towards my agency, I feel like once my partner Sean and I did that, things drastically changed because if two people are responsible for one thing, it just will not get done, in my opinion.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, Greg, we're very different thinkers too. Like, you need to have one person making the decision, but we definitely still go to each other for everything. I mean, we've known each other for freaking like 20 years. We were like college roommates. It's crazy. So like we know how each other think. And I think it's just good to have that because that sets boundaries too, like personal and business boundaries where it's like, that's your thing, man. Go learn about it, go own it. And I'm going to do the same thing. And then we optimize like those areas of business. It's great.
Absolutely. And then the second thing is I feel like if you're going to like think about the stages of a e-commerce business, like from like a really just like 1,000-foot view, it's like going from 0 to 1. It's like getting those first sales, finding that like first marketing or advertising channel that like can like predictably give you customers and like figuring out product market fit is like 0 to 1, right? And then like 1 to 2 is like scaling the business and like creating an actual like revenue, actually creating a real business, right? And like everything that you built from 0 to 1 is going to break into 0 to 2. And then going from 2 to 3 is when you've fixed a lot of stuff about how the business operates, but it becomes more about money and managing money and doing exactly what you two just kind of described there is like you get better terms and your cash flow is more predictable and it unlocks so much for managing the business.
I think something Greg and we're part of an organization here in San Diego called SDSI, which is San Diego Sports Innovators. And there's like some really big brands that are part of this. So we have like some really amazing mentors from like Trek and Electra Bikes to Sunbum to like Callaway Golf. It's really cool. And it was really interesting because we were a small brand during COVID. And to see the crazy influx of orders a lot of these bigger brands got. And then all of a sudden they had so much inventory and no cash. And then those orders dropped after COVID. And they're like, dude, we are cash poor, but inventory rich. So they had to do so much like messing around. And I think one thing that Greg and I have always been very conservative for lack of, for better or worse, is like our cash flow is so tight for us. So we want to make sure that that is like our number one focus. So we never overextend ourselves in terms of inventory. It's like, yeah, maybe we sell out, but I'd rather sell out than have like inventory we can't sell. And then you have to be like, all right, I guess it's 50% off for the next 6 months. So we don't do a lot of discounts, which capitalizes on margins because we never have to overextend ourselves with inventory. And we keep cash as like the number one thing for us.
Absolutely. Now, I've had a fantastic time talking with you two gentlemen today. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience?
I think like an interesting thing that we're going through right now is, we talked a lot about our main product. and we have one big product. It's about product expansion and company growth. It's like that inflection point of when you choose to go all in on that one product and have that be your only thing, or do you expand to other products and try and create other verticals and other like demographics that you try and target? I think that's one thing. That's the point in the business that we're at. I'm wearing one of the shirts right now, Cuts Clothing, but they had a really interesting thing where they did a t-shirt for like 8 years and they maxed that out, and then they did other products. So it's like Greg and I are trying to figure that out right now. It's like we're working on designs for women's. We just launched our youth product, and we're testing out like where do we allocate dollars to? Do we do that to expand the product, or do we try and I don't know, really own this one segment and go all in on drifties and continue to just hit the market to try and capitalize on new prospects and new clients? It's tricky.
Absolutely, it is a tricky thing. Obviously, you guys have an amazing product, patented product, Shark Tank featured product. If I'm listening to this and I'm like, that sounds awesome, I need to buy a pair, and you're not sold out, where do they go?
They can check us out at driftline.co.co. Check us out on social media as well, the same handle. And I mean, we're really ramping things up. We've got a lot of new product for the holidays, and I think next year is going to be our biggest year yet in terms of purchase order size. So we're super stoked for what's ahead.
Awesome. Wes and Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us, Chase.
Thanks, Chase. Appreciate it.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestycommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.